I am back with Katie and Jess to talk all about their birth story. So, if you don't know who Katie and Jess are, that means you didn't listen to the previous episode where we are doing our visibility series. So this is episode 2 in the visibility series. And in episode 1, Jess and Katie walked us through what it was like to do a fertility journey as a same-sex couple, and then some of the politics about having to adopt your own child if you are not the bio parent. So start there. And this week we get into their birth story. It's crazy and it's angering. It involves a 13-hour triage stay partitioned by curtains with other parents laboring. Like, welcome to New York. So let's get to it. What does a contraction feel like? How do I know if I'm in labor? And what does a day of labor look like? Wait, is this normal? Hey, I'm Heidi. My best friends call me Hides. I'm a certified birth doula, host of this podcast, and author of Birth Story, an interactive pregnancy guidebook. I have supported hundreds of women through their labor and deliveries, and I believe every one of them and you deserves a microphone and a stage. So here we are. Listen each week to get answers to these tough questions. Birth Story, where we talk about pregnancy, labor, deliveries, where we tell our stories and share our feelings. And of course, chat about our favorite baby products and motherhood. And because I'm passionate about birth outcomes, you will hear from some of the top experts in labor and delivery. Whether you are pregnant, trying desperately to get pregnant, or you just love a good birth story, I hope you will stick around and be part of this birth story family. Before we get started, I would love to have you guys in Birth Story Academy. It is premier childbirth education for your hospital birth, no matter what the birth looks like that you're planning. So medicated, unmedicated, a wait-and-see attitude, a belly birth, an induction, there is a module for all of it. And I have a blank name tag at your seat waiting to put your name on it. And the best part about Birth Story Academy is that I get to be your virtual doula. You go into my private Facebook group where I interact with you every single week and cheer you on as you plan and prepare for the birth that you want, no matter what that looks like. So I hope you will go to birthstory.com and enroll in Birth Story Academy today. Hey, Jess. Hey, Katie. Welcome back.
Hello.
Hello. Thanks for having us back.
Yes. So I have a follow-up question did you get the shirt that says azospermatic?
Not yet. Christmas is soon. Like the holidays are soon. So it's a stocking stuffer, I think.
Yes. I was wondering, I was like, when is this going to show up on like Jess's Instagram? You know, it's like, this is amazing.
It'll be on my bonfire real soon. You'll be able to purchase it real soon.
Yes. Well, I hope everyone listened to the first episode with you guys where we really dug into like your fertility journey and kind of like the politics behind being a lesbian couple and like what that means even in like liberal New York and all the things. So if you haven't listened to that episode, you guys go back and listen to that episode because now we are digging into Jess and Katie's birth story. I'm going to start, Jess, with you.
Okay.
In the last episode, you broke my heart when you said, I feel like with Lily's birth, with your first, that you were like, I got thrown into this like quintessential like dad role or whatever of just kind of being, tossed aside, right? Like, and it was more all about Katie. And so I wanted to start there as we dig into the birth story and how it unfolded. Because I know we have this new baby, Amelia, on the way. There's a lot of doulas that listen to the podcast, a lot of people that are pregnant, nurses, OBGYNs, all this kind of thing. But it hurt my heart for the like quintessential dad role too. Like, sure. I was like, what are we doing not just in heteronormative couples to toss the dad aside, but like in other couples as well, like with you and Katie, like what could we be doing better to make you feel just as important and special as Katie? Because it's both of your, it's your daughter, it's both of your daughters. And so like, what are we doing? What are doulas getting wrong? What are nurses getting wrong? What are OBs getting wrong? Like, what are we doing to put the partner aside and put the mom on a pedestal that's carrying?
So, first of all, I will say our doula she's incredible. She has made me feel, because I am part of the process, she has included me in every part of the process from the second I met her. She's from a doula perspective, and she's really my only reference point. Like, obviously I know you, I know Katie, but like, you weren't at our birth and Katie was at our birth, but in a different capacity. So I can't really like speak to that. But from like our doula, Liz, she included me 100%. I think it's really more about like the medical care and how they talk to you. If you go to an appointment together, like I go to every single appointment with Katie, not because I'm a control freak, but because I give a shit about my wife and my kids. So I want to be there. And they, they'll talk to Katie. They'll only talk to Katie. It's never, even if it was like, here's how you can help Katie, there's none of it. It's just directed 100% at Katie. They even sort of roll their eyes when like we're making the next appointment and we're like talking about our calendars. Like, like, what do you give a shit about like her calendar? Like when are you free? Not really caring like that I'm looking at my calendar and I'd like to go too. And then I think just sort of like very broad, very, very broad, like societally, like, we talked about last time with like a lot of the legal stuff, like that makes people feel like crap. Like that's obviously not for heteronormative couples, but like within the queer world, the partner feels like shit. Like if you're the non-bio parent, and I've talked about this a lot on my platform, like the non-bio parent is made to feel like a non-parent a lot of times. And I don't know that it's anything like that I can pinpoint to be like this specific person in this specific equation should do better. I think it's just overall, like be mindful that there are two parents in the room. And with our first baby, our whole world's changed, right? Like, and with our next baby, the whole world will change. What I will say is we have taken different steps this time to just make it a better experience for both of us. So, I mean, we have our same doula who is, she's become a very good friend of ours. I mean, we like hang out socially now. She's the best and she knows me and I trust her. And like I've joked, like if she's not at the birth, I'm not showing up. Like she's my partner in crime in this. Like we're super, super close and tied at the hip that day, just as much as she and Katie are. And we've switched providers. We have switched providers.
Good job.
We're working with midwives and, Katie and I differ in like the crunchy, natural kind of stuff a lot. And it's not that I'm like so strongly against it. It's more of just like, I don't really care. It's just not something that's like in my purview of things that are important to me. But they are very important to Katie. So even when we met our doula, she was like, just meet her. I was like, oh, fine, I'll meet her, and I loved her, just come meet the midwives. Fine. I'll meet the midwives. I loved them. It was such a different experience. The level of care is so different. They book out a half hour just to start. Like they give you a half hour of their time no matter what. And there were questions for me. Like I was sitting in the appointment ready to not zone out, but like that's sort of been my go-to speed. It's just like, yeah, I can check my phone. Oh, is that a sonogram? Very cool. Okay, good. I see the baby. Oh, is that the heartbeat? You don't want me to know that's the heartbeat? Like nobody's paying attention to me. Not that I need someone to pay attention to me, but it'd be nice to be included. They had like a list of questions for me as well. So it actually like kind of caught me off guard. And they're like, okay, Jess, these ones are for you. And I was like, what do you need to know about me? Why are you talking to me? But I really liked that. So, I mean, I think just the mindfulness of switching providers, and it kind of sucks that it's on the couple or the people that are going to be having the baby in whatever capacity that looks like to fix a broken system.
Yeah.
Draw our line in the sand and say, well, we're working with a different provider. We're going to a different medical office. So, that's on us, but in terms of what doctors can do better is just be inclusive. Nurses, I'm in the room too. That's my kid. And fun fact, like I paid for that kid. So, at least make eye contact with me would be really nice.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. Those are all really good things. And from the doula's perspective, watching from the outside in, I mean, I kind of see this. It happens to me when I come in sometimes as the doula with a single mom by choice. Right.
Sure.
And then they're like, oh, like, are you the grandma sister wife? Like, well, I'm the doula, but, I love that it's like they're the first thing that they don't think like I could possibly be this woman's partner, which I think should be their first question, right? Like if I was a dude doula and that this was a single mom, the first thing they would say when they walked in is like, is this your husband?
Also, like, I wonder if it almost started as like an empowerment thing, right? Because like heteronormative couples are out and like the woman is generally the one who's not spoken to, like the man is taking the lead and the man's, making the reservation and like these societal norms, right? Like, so I almost wonder if in that like OBGYN type of care, the focus has been on the like quote unquote woman because that was their space. They were the birthing person in that equation. But because of that, they've sort of taken the like joy out of it for the father role.
Yeah. And I mean, I would say that that's probably very true because like I'm going to interview my mom on the podcast coming up on all of her pregnancies and births. And she was saying like her perspective and my dad's perspective is so funny because my mom's like, your dad wasn't there. And my dad's like, they didn't let me be there. Like I was in a chair in the hallway, like treated like trash, and this was 43 years ago, Mm-hmm. And so like, I wanted to make sure we at least opened this podcast with this discussion that I think hiring a doula is something that really helps navigate that system like you have with Liz. Even when Katie interned with me, and Katie, I know, remember we have that big birth preferences intake form. Mm-hmm. When I was writing the course for Birth Story Academy, the one thing that exploded in that form was the whole partner section. Mm-hmm. So now the partners fill out this massive section on like, do you have anxiety? Are you afraid of elevators? Do you have diabetes? Like, what do I need to know about, essentially, what do I need to know about Jess so that Jess has a doula and Katie has a doula when you go into your birthing time? And so...
Well, it's the birth process too, right? Like we're working together and I have a fear of elevators or I have high anxiety and all of a sudden you can't get me to the third floor of that building. Guess who's then prolonging labor and nobody even could predict that this could be a problem.
Yeah.
Like to not know that about both people, it's odd.
I actually find, and Heidi, I'm sure you find this as well, like it's just like patriarchal BS that like fathers in a heteronormative couple are just treated like that's like the dumb old dad role. And like, they're like laughed at if they end up feeling queasy or lightheaded or need to sit down. Like I ask every partner in my like prenatals, how do you navigate medical spaces? Because is it better for me to be like, you look pale, please sit down? Do you It's like, I don't know why this is like treated like it's like like a comedy. Like, oh, he fainted while his wife was in labor. Like, oh, of course he did.
Yeah.
Dad, I have some tremendous pain and you're becoming a father. What an idiot feeling bad.
Right.
Oh, and mom's yelling like, oh, it's so funny.
I felt like that like was projected onto Jess and like, it's like fine if it's like, and I'm putting air quotes, you won't see, but like, that's like, okay when it's like dumb old dad, but like, it's not like treat partners with respect. They have a really hard job on that day too.
Yeah, exactly. I will say that is something that has evolved in my own practice over time. And if you guys aren't doing this with Liz, it's just something I recommend is on the front page of your birth plan or write a letter that's like, hey, we're Katie and Jess. Here's some things that you need to know about Katie, here's some things you need to know about Jess. Now here are our birth preferences. So that it's written more like a conversation of inviting a relationship than these are the demands that I want for my birth, or these are all about what Katie wants for her body, right? Versus like, okay, what role does Jess play in that? So starting with like, all of that documentation. So my partners really love the process, whether they're in a same-sex relationship or same-gendered relationship or they're heteronormative couple, like that there is that space for them, for their doula to get to know them with, they have to take the same intake questionnaire that the birthing person does. And I had one other thing before we just dig into your birth story is you said the non-bio parent, Jess. And it's so interesting because there is an assumption when a woman is pregnant that baby is biologically hers, right? But I work with couples where the birthing person is not the bio parent, and that's never brought up or discussed. Like if this was your egg, right? If this was if this was an IVF story and this was your egg, I mean, like there's just so many layers to it. I just wanted to,
there's so many, like, I feel like unless you're like in a heteronormative couple and it's, mommy and daddy, if it's like, if it doesn't fit that picture, then like people can't wrap their heads around anything past that is like, that's weird. We don't get that.
Yeah, I know. You guys know my story. Like, I mean, I just like when we go anywhere for like kindergarten first day, it's like, oh, just wish I had a microphone behind me so that I could hear what they were saying when I walked out of the room, Yep, here we are. We look very different than your family. We are open to any questions that you have about that. So, all right, well, let's dig into this birth story. So we kind of went through the whole process of how Lily came to be, right? And then let's just pick up right there. So Katie, I'm going to start with you. Like, how were you feeling through that first trimester? Like when you we talked about how you found out you were pregnant, but like, how did you feel?
Emotionally, I felt great. I was so excited and we were so happy. Physically, I felt horrible until I was 16 weeks pregnant. And then, 16 weeks, a light switch came on. I felt absolutely amazing until I was 39 weeks pregnant. And then I was like, get out! Please get out! But yeah, I had energy. I felt beautiful. Like I loved my body changing. I loved feeling my baby move. I felt great, but I was really sick until I was 16 weeks.
Okay. What did you do for the sickness?
Crying. Felt sick. Nothing, like none of the things that like I always feel jealous when people are like, oh, I would just like pop a peppermint and then I would feel better. And I was like, okay. Like that, none of it. It didn't work. Peppermint, essential oils, which I love, nothing.
Okay.
Nothing.
Now, now you're 22 weeks pregnant.
Yes.
So how was the first 16 weeks with Amelia?
Worse.
Okay. I'm so sorry.
It was trying to conceive or to I don't mean to scare anybody, but it was worse. I was more sick with Amelia than I was with Lily. And I had in my head, I'm going to get to 16 weeks and it's all going to be fine, which is of course foolish, but that was what's going on in my head. Sure enough, 16 weeks comes and goes. I'm still vomiting daily. I'm still without energy. I'm still, waking up with headaches. But I would say somewhere in the middle of week 20.
Yeah, you just turned a corner maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And now you're I think in that, I'm knocking nice, every piece of wood in our house that you just feel well.
Right. And of course, because what's life without mom guilt? I'm this is, almost 100% likely my last pregnancy. I want, I love being pregnant with Lily and I'm not enjoying this pregnancy. I'm so guilty that I'm not. And now of course that's silly, but now I am able to enjoy it, which has been very nice.
Yes. And trust me, when they get to be 6 and 7, like mine are, like I literally don't really remember how I felt when I was pregnant. So it goes away. Those guilt feelings go away very quickly and they're replaced with new guilt, new guilt feelings. So Katie, in the first trimester, when you're watching your person not feeling good, like what did you really feel like? Is there anything just that you felt like you could do to help Katie?
No, and it's something I struggled with it a lot, to the point that I was like, I can't even tell her how much I'm struggling with it because she feels so sick. So like I would be, and this literally just changed within the last week and a half. I would be very on edge and very irritable because there was nothing that I could do to help her. And I would offer like, can I do this for you? Can I do this for you? And like, it wasn't like, no, it was just none of those things were helpful. So yeah, no, there was like literally nothing I could do. And I would just always ask and make sure I was like present and could do what I had to do. But there was like nothing that worked. And any suggestion, I'd be like, do you want a cup of water? Do you want this, I don't know, sucking candy? Do you want me to stand on my head? Like there was nothing that was working. So I felt very, very useless.
Yeah.
This was lack of trying.
No, I know.
Anything you want, I'll go get it for you. I couldn't name a food that I wanted.
Well, and I remember the first time, like she had a couple of things that like I knew if I was like, I'll go get you Panera, for whatever reason, like Panera really like was your jam the first time.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, go get me Panera. So I was like, hey babe, how about Panera? And she's like, I can't eat Panera. Like, just none of it. So all of my old tricks just didn't work that well the first time, and they worked even worse the second time.
Yep. Okay. I interviewed on the podcast this guy, David Arell, and he has a book called Welcome to Fatherhood, like total opposite of the conversation that we're having here today, but so similar. He tells this story about how like he was the stay-at-home dad and he was trying really hard. His wife had this big job and he was trying really hard. And so he cooked her favorite meal and she walked in the door and was like, ugh, I can't smell it, And he was like, he's over here like, I'm trying,
If like lit a candle or something or put something in the diffuser I thought she would like, she'd be like, what's that smell? I put the diffuser on. Oh, okay. Like, and couldn't, I was like, okay, she's going to throw up.
Oh my gosh. It's so hard. It's so hard to be caring. It's so hard to support someone who's caring, I mean, Katie even knows just as doulas, like sometimes I'm like doing a double hip squeeze and they're like, yes. And then the next one, they're like, ugh, get off of me, And it's like, dang, I was really just trying to make you feel better, on that one. Okay. So Jess, I have a question that I'm sure crosses all lines of just being a human and really doesn't have to do with anything about gender or sexuality, but every couple that I work with tends to answer this question differently. And so I'm wondering, did you feel like a mom the moment that you knew that there was a positive pregnancy test?
No.
Did you, Katie?
Yes.
Okay. Isn't this interesting, right? When did that moment happen for you, Jess? Like, when did you feel like a mom?
When I met Lily.
Okay. At delivery.
Like a couple of days into it. Like when we were home and we were together, and I was like, okay, she's ours. This is like our little creature to raise. Got it. But like the focus was still like in the hospital, like helping Katie breastfeed and all of the things. So like it was just a lot of maybe busy work's the wrong word for it, but like it was a lot of busyness and like, let's make sure we check this box and does the car seat work and this, that. So like until we had her home and I could really look at her and be like, oh, it's funny, you look like me. Like I didn't feel like a mom until then.
Yep. Most partners will answer that way.
I'm sure.
Most partners, just because they're like, if I'm not feeling a kick or a, hey, going on like lightning crotch, it's, sometimes it's, I just remember like when my partner told me that, like, I just really didn't feel like a parent until he like came out. It wasn't real for me. I was like, oh, I didn't know that, thought it was real for us the whole time, and so that's something that's been interesting for me to explore with the couples is I think that's another component of it, Jess, is like, how do we bring partners in to make it feel more real prior to birthing time, if that's even possible? I don't know.
Like it's a physical thing. Like even with Amelia, like I'm already a mom, like Lily's my daughter, I know what it is to be mommy, and Amelia obviously here and around, but it's sort of like conceptual until she's born.
Yeah.
I recognize pregnant. I know what the process is. Like I know what it's going to be. And until I see her, it's like, yeah, okay, we're going to have 2 kids.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. I get it. I feel it. So your first trimester sucks. Let's just say that. And you feel terrible. And then you said you felt pretty good until 39 weeks. And, Jess admittedly is like, I'm not so crunchy or whatever. And like, here you are, Katie, as the doula. What was your plan for this birth? Like, were you like, I want an epidural, I want a natural birth? Like what were you thinking about and planning for the type of birth that you wanted?
So like my ideal that I was like striving for was an unmedicated, low intervention vaginal delivery.
Okay.
Is what was achieved. I wouldn't say I had a perfect birth story. But I think I was respected. And when we get into more of the birth story, like I can explain how. But Jess was really supportive. She wasn't like against me not wanting intervention in any way, actually. And like the more we talked about it, she was like, oh, I see like why that's important to you. I see why that seems. And then like,
it's also like not my body,
Right. But like, even like the couple of the books that I had been reading that I found really, really helpful, like I was like, do you mind reading this one? So you kind of know where we are, like be on the same page when we're in, on the day and in the room and the language that I want used. And you did, of course. And she was a wonderful, wonderful birth partner.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, so how did you guys prepare? So what were those books? What were those courses? Like, what did you do to prepare for a low intervention birth?
I actually, because I've been so into birth my whole life, I feel like I like went into pregnancy and, ultimately birth with like a lot of background information, but we had watched Business of Being Born. I had seen it when I was like 19, and then we watched it together, which is wonderful. And if you are somebody who's wanting a low intervention birth or considering it, it's a great thing to watch because it has a lot of information in it. And then, I don't know, it just like everybody reads that one hypnobirthing book, that Mongan method one.
Mm-hmm.
For what I didn't know anything, like I didn't know which were the popular ones. And on Audible, I saw this book called The Calm Birth Method. Susie Ashwood.
It was Ashwood.
I'm actually listening to it now again. Oh, Ashworth. Ashworth.
Okay.
The Calm Birth Method. I listened to it. That was the first birth book that I listened to when I was pregnant. And every word of it resonated with me. None of it felt far-fetched. I loved it. She opens it with like, if you're looking for a book that's going to tell you to like whisper to your vagina, like this is the wrong book for you. And I was like laughing. She's funny. The birth stories are really interesting in there. And she says like, this is not a book about natural birth. Like all birth is natural and everybody's story is different. But it's how to feel empowered and calm through whatever path your birth takes. And I loved that. And I love it now. And I just read the Hypnobirthing Mongan Method book and I did not like it. So it just wasn't for me.
You said it was very like flowery and like
it was literally
say like birth doesn't have to hurt. Like,
yeah, and they
like
literally said like exactly what doesn't work for me, which is like we're using the rosebud method totally, and it just that doesn't work for everybody, and I'm not one of those people. So
totally understand. I got an epidural when I was 1 centimeter dilated, y'all. So
I always joke with Katie that like if I was to carry a baby, which I have no interest in doing, I would be like, is Twilight birth still a thing, or Twilight sleep? Can you knock me out, or
Yep.
no attempt at anything other than that.
Right. That is a type of birth. It's called general anesthesia.
Right.
And you wake up 4 hours later with a baby. So you're reading this one book is really kind of resonating with you. When did you hire Liz?
So I met Liz. She does some private yoga classes, and I met her through a friend, and we were both trying to conceive at the same time and ended up conceiving within 4 weeks of one another. But we went to a fertility tailored yoga class that Liz was doing. And as soon as I met her, I was like, I can't have a baby without this person there. It was just like, you just knew,
Mm-hmm.
So I think I was like, I was very newly pregnant. I think I was like 5 or 6 weeks pregnant, and I like messaged her on Facebook, and I was like, hey, I don't know how to do this, but I'm pregnant and I don't know. I think I would like to be my doula. I don't know where to go from there, And now I see that like people who aren't as awkward as I am when they like inquire for doula services, it's like normal. But
because it's like dating, you know what I mean? It's like, I think I might want to have you, but I'm not totally sure, What is the going range for doulas in your area in Long Island?
I would say 12 to 2,000 would be like average.
Okay. So a pretty significant investment, right?
Mm-hmm.
At 5 weeks to be like, yeah, let's do this. Now, was she like a doula, like by trade, or was she just like this calm, peaceful presence yoga instructor that like knew how to doula?
So she is a doula.
Okay.
Mommy of 5. And she is just like, I don't know, her whole presence. She's such a special person. And we've learned so much from her about everything, not just birth and parenthood. She always says, you learn with everyone. And like, so she's had every kind of birth too, unmedicated, medicated, cesarean, like she has gone through all of it. So she was just, she's just great.
And she has no like preference, like, and I know that's sort of like the doula's role is to just like be supportive of whatever the birthing person wants and the couple in general, but like, she doesn't even, there's no like bat of the eye at anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you want a medicated birth or you want to take medicine during your pregnancy. Like, she just advises like, what's the healthiest thing you could do in the minute, like she's a minute by minute kind of gal, and it's cool.
Yeah. Would you say, Katie, that she's one of your mentors for being a doula now?
Oh my gosh. Totally.
Awesome.
Totally. I think she was like a huge inspiration for me, even moving forward with becoming a doula.
Awesome. So she gets into this process early. So you're 5 or 6 weeks along, you're going to this yoga class, you feel like shit, your second trimester hits. Like, what are some of the things that both of you guys were doing to like prepare for Lily's birth?
We didn't do childbirth education. We didn't do lactation education. Actually, that was suggested to us by our doula, because once she got to know me and kind of realized I was sort of type A, and like I have like what I call I've named good student syndrome, where I don't like to get things wrong. Okay. She was like, you can take a breastfeeding class, because I asked her, and she was like, but they might tell you like these are the things that happen with breastfeeding, and then when like something goes sideways a little bit, like, or something works for you that they didn't explain in the class, like you might feel like you're like not doing something right and checking all the boxes, and like, why don't you just see what happens?
Yeah. Okay.
And I think that was really great advice for me, for who I am.
Yeah. Yes. Check good student syndrome. Maybe like wait and have a private lactation consulting appointment after you give birth and your milk comes in, that kind of thing. I had a question for you though, Jess. Did you have any intention to breastfeed too, or feed at the breast with SNS? No. So all breastfeeding responsibilities were going to go to Katie. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just in case, that is a thing, right? Like we can, so a lot of people don't know that right now. There's listeners that are like, what are you talking about, Heidi? Right? Like,
it's just not who I feel like as a person, and it's not something I was interested in doing.
Okay, good. Glad we clarified that up front. Just wanted to make sure I at least mentioned it in case there is a listener out there that's like, if your sex assigned at birth is female and you still have breast and breast tissue, you can produce milk even if you've never been pregnant. It's very interesting. So that would be a whole different podcast. So, all right. So Katie was going to do feeding and you decided like, let's just have this conversation after we give birth. Okay. Now you have a doula, you've got this unmedicated plan, and you said you hit 39 weeks and you were like not feeling good again.
I will say, you know what? I misspoke before. I was 38 because I had Lily at 39 and 1. But at 38 weeks, I remember I was like, I can't breathe. And I remember I was literally crying. I was like, if she gains 1 more ounce, there is no space left. There's nowhere for her to grow. I will explode. My skin will rip open and she'll be born through a hole in my skin.
As a person now, like that would be a good way for her to make an entrance,
right?
You know?
That's like literally how I felt. And everything, like we would be on a walk and I'd be telling Jess the story and I'd be like, forget it. I'll tell you later. I'm not talking anymore, you know?
Okay, so this happened for you at 38 weeks. Like that was your like, I'm done. And it really usually is about a week to 10 days before your body naturally goes into labor, right? That we tend to hit this wall. Most people don't hit a wall 4 weeks before they go into labor. It's really kind of close where your body is. And I think it's primal, like we start to shut down. So it tells us like, if you're like in the rice field working, you know, it's like, come home, get close to home, like, you know, get to safety. Like the birthing time is about to happen. So like, so you're kind of in a foul mood. You're like, you know, your body, your Lily's about to jump out of you. Were you like, you know, you said you want low intervention. So did you ever get to a point where you're like, fuck it, sweep my membranes and start an induction? Or did you just go into spontaneous labor?
I went into spontaneous labor. We considered the membrane sweep. I think I was given one without consent,
I'm sorry.
which happened a lot. But so at 39 weeks, no, I had an appointment on Wednesday. Lily was born on Friday, 39 and 1. So 38 and 6, I had an appointment. I was like, I was not like, I remember when I was leaving, they were like, let's schedule your appointment for next week. And I was like, I hope I don't make it. Like, I was like, so mad. But we had my appointment. I was like, talking to my doctor. I was like, I'm ready. Like, I'm done. I'm ready for the baby to be born. And she kind of said like, you know, well, when we do, and I didn't know I could turn down cervical exams at the time. And she was like, you know, when we do the cervical exam, sometimes it kind of gets things moving. And now looking back, like, especially that morning, this is a funny story. It's a birth podcast. There's no TMI. I was sweatpants to bed and I was standing by my island in the kitchen. I was eating a bowl of Cheerios and Jess goes, why are your pants wet? And I was like, I don't know, but I'm not checking because my Cheerios will be soggy if I go and look now. So I finished my Cheerios with wet pants and turned out that it was just like mucusy discharge. Like it was nothing too exciting. But that day I had the appointment. I was like, did my water break? And they were like, no, your water absolutely didn't break. It's like, okay, so I'm just,
which we learned would have like with what that actually looks like would have been very silly of your water.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
And then that evening, so that was Wednesday with the wet pants and the, you know, non-consented membrane sweep. Thursday morning, 2 a.m., I woke up to pee and lost my mucus plug. Okay. And that was like 2. And then at 6, I woke up with like some cramping. Okay. And I think, you know, I think this might be it. So I went into labor at 39 weeks and then she was born the next day.
Okay. So I want the listeners to hear this progression, right? Like crankiness hit a wall. Okay, this is a signpost, right? Like mood changes. Then you have all of this gush of vaginal fluid and mucus. Definitely a sign. Like, I mean, there could be so much vaginal fluid. It's unbelievable. So, like, your pants are wet, you've got vaginal fluid. They did a membrane sweep without your consent. So, like, let's just make sure everyone knows there's no reason for a vaginal exam ever, especially when you're just pregnant and not in labor, right? Like, there's a couple in labor, fine. If you're birthing at a hospital, we talked about on the show, but like, really, there's no reason to do a cervical exam ever, in my opinion, because often they, violate you. I mean, I think it's like assault, right? Like assault on my cervix when it happened to me too. And I had been a doula for a long time and it still happened. But like that's assault on our bodies when something is done without our consent. It's called obstetrical violence. It was done. It releases prostaglandins though. And sometimes you go into labor, So progression, right? Were you having frequent bowel movements?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So like pooping a lot?
There were a few emergencies on the way home. I was like, we need to get home.
She was like attempt to run home, but she was huge.
So like, and like trying not to diarrhea on my pants. Like, how do I get home?
Yep. Okay. So this sounds like a very typical like progression of like that early first stage of labor. And then your mucus plug drops out while you go pee. And then the cramping begins. When did you call Liz?
I texted her that morning. I was like, here's what's going on. Lost my mucus plug. I think I'm having contractions. They seem like it's like nothing. Like they're 30 minutes apart at this point and they're lasting like 10 seconds. So she was like, okay, don't pay attention to them. Don't turn a tracker on. Don't just go about your day. And when a huge part of our birth preferences was that when I was in labor, we were not telling anybody, including my parents. Everyone knew, you will find out when baby is born. You will not find out when I'm in labor. You will not find out when we leave to go to the hospital.
We had one plan to alert a friend at a certain point in time to let the dog out.
Right.
Okay.
But so Lily's birthday is October 25th. On October 1st of the same year, my mother was in a horrible car accident and was hospitalized for over a week. She had surgery, broken pelvis, broken ribs, she was really needing a lot of help. And it was giving me something to do, it was like, go over and do my mom's laundry or cook a meal for my parents, whatever. And I hadn't seen them on Wednesday because we had that appointment. So that Thursday when I knew I was in labor, I was like, I have to go see my mom because I'm probably going to be in labor tonight and then into tomorrow. And so I went to my mom's house and did laundry and chatted with my parents, had a cup of tea, like nothing was going on.
They're still pissed about it.
They're still mad. My mom will be like, I knew it.
And you were having contractions, what, every 7 to 10 minutes?
Yeah, they were really spaced out in the beginning. I would even say like maybe a little bit longer than 10 minutes. I had it was like a slow and steady start.
Okay.
So my first, I came home, Jess and I took a walk and I tried to sleep, but I was so excited. You're so excited when you're in labor. And around 7-ish, we had gotten dinner. We ordered Italian and I was having tortellini soup on the couch. And that was the first, I was like literally going in for a spoonful. It was like the first contraction I had to like think about. I almost spilled my whole bowl of soup on myself. And I was like, I had to like think about it. Liz knew everything. We were keeping her updated. I was like, I want to shave. I want to do my hair. You want to feel like a little bit like yourself. And we were watching like The Office. And then around 11, I was like, yeah, I think I could use
a little help.
I think I could use you coming here. And now I called her too early. I got to the hospital too early. Like I know these things about myself. But she came, we watched the movie Sisters, which because I wanted to keep laughing. That was something that book had said, like, keep laughing, keep your oxytocin, keep your endorphins, like, and I was like, okay, we'll watch, like, that movie's so funny, like, it'll make me, and it did.
Yeah.
It made we were all
Yeah.
laughing about it.
And Liz stayed?
She did.
Oh, she's an angel from heaven.
Like Liz is literally like angel heaven sent person. She's also a friend.
Yeah.
So
okay.
like her tolerance level for who we are as humans is probably higher than like somebody you don't have a friendship connection with. You know,
Yes.
like, she was happy to like bring her 7-Eleven coffee, sit down on the couch and watch Sisters for, you know, an hour and a half with us while we were like, are we gonna have a baby or no? You know, like she was cool with it.
Yeah.
She also, so she was like, yeah, I'll get out of the house for a little bit, no problem.
Yeah. I mean, Katie, you know how it is as a doula, right? I mean, I do have those couples where I'm like, I'm going whenever they call me because I want to spend the whole day with them, you know? Yeah. Like there are some couples that are just so fun. I did just have this story happened and, you know, I have a work partner, Colin, and so we have to keep each other in check. And, but same sex couple, Shantanam and Lana, and I adored them. And she called me so early and I knew it. And I FaceTimed her and I was like, oh gosh, but I just wanted to be with them. I just wanted to spend the night, then like evening with them. And they were so fun and so funny. And, you know, so sometimes you have that relationship and then other times I have that relationship and you just can't do it. You know what I mean? Because life happens, but I love it. So Liz is at your house watching this movie with you and you're like in very early labor still.
Yeah. I mean, I was having contractions probably every 5 minutes. I was breathing through everything. I would just kind of go into myself and then I was coming back out and chatting and, you know, whatever. And a few times, like I was really comfortable on the yoga ball or an island in the kitchen. I was like leaning over the island and Liz was rubbing my back and that was really nice. And around 2 a.m., I was like, I think I'm feeling ready. Like I would like to go to the hospital. And she was like, okay. She's like, they're going to make you lay down for a while. So why don't you take a walk before we go? Okay. Just kind of moving a little bit. Let's get the baby moving down. So we're walking around 2 a.m. It was a pretty cold night. Yeah. And we're like 3 and she's like doing like a standing hug with me when I'm having contraction. We were like joking that like anybody with a Ring doorbell, you know, is like, probably like what is happening in the front yard. Yes. Like, are these 3 people hugging at 2 a.m. like taking a walk?
They really love each other. Yeah. That's so nice.
So we came back. I think I had a cup of tea.
Yeah, you did.
Red raspberry leaf tea, and then I was like, I would like to go. So we get ready to go to the hospital. Of course, there's no traffic. It's the middle of the night, and we're driving. Liz was behind us, and this is Katie luck. I have comically poor luck.
Very bad.
And we see a cop, lights turning on, and Liz gets pulled over. So I'm like, Jess, Liz just texted me. She had just texted me, how are you doing? I was like, the cop has to be pulling her over because she saw her texting. And Jess is like, oh, she has a headlight out. Maybe it's the headlight. And Jess is like, do we stop? And I was like, no.
Oh, I'm like, yes. I'm like, of course you do. You go save your doula from the cop.
So we're like laughing about this. And we're like, you know, we get into the hospital, we do all this, you know, admission paperwork, which is such garbage. And we're like, I don't know where Liz is. We're like, you know, we get up to L&D and she's already there. Yeah, she's like, hey guys. The cop was a woman and was like, knew what a doula was. And she had pulled Liz over because she was like, it's 2 a.m. Why are you following the only other car on the road so closely?
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Well, that's my client. She's in labor. And the cop was like, okay, bye. Like, go.
Drive faster than you've ever driven. Go.
So that all worked out. And then
she beat you there, though. That's amazing.
Well, we had to like sign in and everything. And she just went right out. But it was pre-COVID. So they weren't like.
Right. Liz didn't have to like get a test or get checked in or any of that stuff. Like she could just go up.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So she's waiting there for you.
Yep, they bring us to a triage room, which is where my body completely shut down. I was having very active contractions. They were lasting a minute plus, and we get into triage, which is horrible at the hospital that I had Lily at. It's curtained off. You're usually with 3 to 4 other people. And one of the women in the room, if there were others, I don't know, but they're like, okay, change your clothes. So I'm trying to get changed. And this poor woman who was in the room with me is screaming that she's dying. She's vomiting. I can't do this. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. And my whole body started shaking. My contractions completely stopped. I think I undilated. Like, I literally think my body was like, it is not safe to have a baby, clearly. And I remember I was taking my leggings off and I felt a little trickle of water down my leg. So I think my water just broke. And I went to the nurse in the triage room and I said, I have to leave. I can't stay in this room. And Liz and Jess were, helping me facilitate that conversation. And again, pre-COVID, I was able to walk in the hallway until they got me into a different triage room where it was like an induction and an epidural, and it was very calm. So
hold on. Okay, we have to stop right here because I'm very confused. Because I live in a city where it's all private.
Mm-hmm. That must be nice.
Like, I'm like, you go to triage and it's just like a little bedroom. And it's like, me as the doula, the nurse, and then the birthing person or the couple.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so you're saying there's like other people in the middle of an epidural and an induction in the same room?
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Like partitioned by curtains?
Literally by curtains. I have had clients at this hospital trying to be in other positions besides on their back on a bed, and they're up against a curtain, rubbing elbows with the birth partner in the next area.
Why?
It literally looks like a refugee tented area is what it looks like. This is horrible.
It's largely why we changed. First of all, we wanted the supportive midwives, but I didn't want to have that experience again. And we were in triage for a long time before we were moved. Yeah, most of it.
Okay, so I do know there's one hospital where I am that has a group triage. And prior to COVID, it was real quick. They would just send you in, do a 20-minute non-stress test, check your in and out in 20 minutes. But now they're not letting the doula go to triage. They're not letting the partner go to triage. And they're keeping the birthing person there for 4 hours, 6 hours, all alone.
That's crazy.
So
4 hours sounds like a vacation from the triage amount of time that we spent. So.
That's true. At least you weren't alone.
Right.
My God. Okay, this is crazy. But I want to say that out loud because look at y'all are in Long Island. I just said y'all. I'm like, y'all. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. Is that so funny? I never say that. But you guys are in Long Island. I am in Charlotte, North Carolina. And people that are listening need to ask, right? What does triage look like? Am I ever going to be separated from my people? And am I ever going to be alone? And by alone, I mean with medical personnel, without someone to protect me. Ask these questions, And if the answer is yes to any of them, fucking run to a different birthing location.
We did the tour, again, pre-COVID, we went on this tour. We were never shown the triage rooms. This is where you come in, you check in here, and then you go to your labor and delivery room. We were not told about this other part of this, at all. So this was really a surprise. And I will say the L&D rooms are not even that nice. They're they don't have showers, they don't have the ball, they don't have a lot of the things, but at least they look presentable and they are not, sectioned off with curtain.
Oh my God. So literally how long were you guys in there for?
We checked in when we got into the next triage room. and I was checked. It was 3 a.m. and we got into our L&D room 4 p.m.
I'm dying right now.
And I wasn't even technically next. Like I wasn't next on the like you get a room list, but I was unmedicated and my nurse was a fucking angel.
Yeah, she was amazing.
So she like bumped me up.
Okay,
She kept like
13 hours in triage. Why? I hate to say this, but like, why didn't you go home?
Because my water had broken.
Okay. So because your water had broken, they then wanted to keep you. Okay. I know that you're a doula and you know all of these things now, but for the other people listening to this podcast that don't know, there's a form called AMA, Against Medical Advice, and you sign that shit and you go home. And it says, against medical advice, because my water is broken, I am going to go home. But it is hard, though, because once your water is broken, labor could progress really quickly, and you also don't want to have a baby in the car, you know.
I was also...
You were what?
I was 4.5 at my first cervical check. When I
really?
Mm-hmm.
That's so far.
Yeah. So I don't think they were like super into wanting.
Oh my gosh. I have no idea. Like I'm starting to sweat. I have no idea like how this is going to unfold. But is Liz still with you? Because now it's been, did she sleep?
Until the baby was born. Until Lily was born, Liz stayed.
Did she sleep at all?
No, neither of us did.
No.
Katie, we like encouraged Katie to sleep, but we just sort of like dicked around for like 24 hours being dominated.
Oh my gosh.
11 p.m. and Lily was born at 7 p.m. the next day. So she was almost with us for a full day.
Okay, so now this is going to make more sense to me. So you get into that room at 4 p.m. and you deliver at 7 p.m. So you're only in your birthing suite for 3 hours. Okay, so the majority of your labor is done in a triage room shared with other people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one shared bathroom too.
One shared bathroom between 3 women in labor.
I can't even handle it. I'm so uncomfortable. I
use the bathroom in that room because we're like, we don't want to take up space from these people in labor. So like we would find whatever bathroom was available in the hallway. Like, okay, I'll go downstairs, you go upstairs. Like, cause we're going to take up space when like all of a sudden Katie's like, I have to go. Like, no, we had to get out of there.
Oh my God. So you're 4.5 centimeters dilated. You are having contractions every 2 to 3 minutes?
Yeah. Yeah. They were on top of, they were quick, I got into the new triage room. I was given a cervical check. I was on my back. I said, I want the wireless monitor. Don't put the bands on me. They gave, I had the wireless, which was great. It didn't bother me whatsoever the entire time I was in labor, but, and then I said, I had felt the trickle when I was changing. All of a sudden my water broke and I like flooded labor and delivery. So I'm in a bed that has, a plastic or rubber mattress, whatever it is in hospitals. And I'm on my back and I'm like, excuse me, my water broke. And the nurse was like, okay. And I was like, no, you don't understand.
Like
I had a blanket on too. My water broke. I was like, I need new everything. Like I need a new gown. I need new sheets. Like I'm like, and again, now I have like good student syndrome. So I'm like, I'm sorry, but there's amniotic fluid in my socks, and she's like, okay, like, don't worry. Like, we'll get it for you. And I was like, I really want you to understand that there's so much water. She goes to take my blanket off and the water goes whoosh, splashes onto the floor. And she goes, oh, and I was like, yeah, I like was trying to tell you. Like, it was a lot. It all came out at once.
Wow.
So yeah,
she deserved it though. She was nasty.
She was, and my doula's like, oh, you have a really good nurse. Like she was trying to make me feel better. So that was like 3 a.m. and then 7 a.m. shift change. God bless her. This woman comes on, 35 years experience, labor and delivery nurse. She's like, you don't want an epidural? I was like, no, please don't talk to me about an epidural again. Like I will ask for it if I need it. And she was like, okay. And she was excited. She was on my team. Let me show you where you can walk. I'm walking around. She's like talking to her friends. She's like, here's my patient, 7 centimeters, no epi. Like, she was so excited.
She was amazing.
Yeah, she really, I mean, without her,
it would have been a different day.
I've been in that hospital many times now and seeing how hard they push for everybody to be on their back the entire time they're in labor. I would have had a totally different birth story without her.
You've never seen her, right? Like, you've never.
I've never.
I wonder if
she
she retired.
there.
She was older. I wonder if she's retired since then.
This makes me feel really thankful for where I work, you guys. Or maybe it's that we've worked so hard over the years to like change policy, but I'm like, I mean, I feel like they know, like, don't you even try to get my client on their back. You know, like, sorry, you know, I mean, but okay. So you're 7 centimeters.
Yeah. I mean, this was now later on, but yeah.
Okay.
So I had been laboring in the room. I had one small moment of really bad doubt when somebody came in, and it was kind of like on top of one person being like, oh, when I had my kids, I had my epis before I was even in labor. And then like somebody checked me and she was like, oh, you're 4.5, maybe 5. And I had been that when I got in, it was hours later. And I was like, I remember I went to the bathroom. I just broke down crying because I was so tired. Yeah. And I was like, I'm not going to have enough energy to push the baby out. I'm so tired. And like Liz came in and she was like, everyone's cervical checks are different. Yeah. You know, she said you're 4.5, maybe 5. She's like, you could be checked by another person and they would tell you that you're 5.5, 6. You know, like, it's everybody's hands are different. And like the way that she was like she like really helped me calm down. Just helped me calm down. She was like, you're already doing it. Like, this is already the work, you know. And from that point on, I kind of like just slept between contractions, like sitting up on the bed. Like, that was really comfortable for me. And I would just like put my head on Jess and then Liz and then Jess and then Liz.
Okay.
And yeah, so that's how I got, you know, further along. So finally 4 p.m. rolls along. Our nurse is fighting for us. She's like, you guys are going in next to your room. It's like, thank God we get in there. That's when I was like 7.5.
7. Yeah.
Yeah.
8
I was 7.5, 8. And she was like, you know, peanut ball, this, that. And like, she went on a break and then
she didn't go on a break. She had other patients and this, like we were talking about before we got on with you, Katie's like, there's a point in this story where I don't need you to just jump in because they don't think it's fair. So, you know, her name was Carolyn. Yes. And Carolyn had other patients, but she was spending so much time with us because she was so interested in like us as a couple, Katie being unmedicated. She loved that we had a doula. Like, she just wanted to hang with us, kind of like you were saying before, like there's some people you just want to hang out with, that she had to go like make her rounds. So she went to go make her rounds. During that time, there was a PA who came in who checked Katie.
Well, I felt like I had to push.
Right. Yeah. Katie felt like she had to push. Oh, and I think like even more than that, our doctor, who is, well, she's not our doctor anymore. She's really a lovely woman. We're not leaving the practice because of her. She's wonderful. She was not in the building, which is not like atypical. However, she had like lost her cell phone in Brooklyn, where her other office is. So she was in the midst of driving to Brooklyn to come back. So like, while Katie was like, I feel like I have to push, they were sort of like staving us off because the doctor wasn't there yet. So Katie got checked by some PA and like, the woman was like, well, you're like 8.5, maybe 9, but there's like a little lip. And she kept like talking about like this little lip. I can't do it. There's this little lip. You can't push it. You can't.
You're 9 with a lip.
Right. You're 9 with a lip. And like we asked to be checked again. She checked again. Same thing. This was like almost an hour later now. And obviously things had been progressing. Like Liz kept saying to me, because she knows like I'm a Neanderthal. She's like, this is what active labor looks like, dummy. Like, you're going to have a baby soon. And eventually like Katie was like, I need them to check me again. I do not want that person back in this room. So Liz said to me, she's like, all right, Mama Bear, like, this is your time to shine. Like, this is what you're good at. You know, you bull in a china shop, go tell them like, she's not welcome back in this room. So I went up to Carolyn, I found her on her rounds, and I was like, hey, listen, like Katie definitely needs to push. That woman is not welcome back in the room. I need you to fix that. And I was like, she is going to have this baby. And she was like, okay, we'll come in, we'll check, whatever. She's like, the doctor's not here. And I said to her, I was like, well, I don't really know what to do about that. And she said to me, like, wink, wink. She's like, if you're comfortable with me delivering this baby, I'm comfortable delivering this baby.
Good for her.
And I said, I am 100% comfortable with you delivering this baby. And I speak on behalf of my wife too. We're fine with that. They come in, a new PA comes in to check us. Carolyn like handpicked another person to come in. Turns out this woman used to be a doula.
Wow.
And I was on,
oh, right.
We had
right,
the bed. We had the bed in like a throne position. So I was kneeling and like holding the back of the chair. And Liz had shown her like how to press on my back. So Jess was pressing on my back. And like this woman walks in and she's like, oh, is that your doula? And I was like, no, that's my wife. Like my doula's over there.
I think Liz was actually in the bathroom. Liz came out, we're like, no, that's our doula. But so she came in, she checked Katie, and she was like, oh my God. Like,
she's like, you can have
no
your
time. Let's have the baby. So Carolyn's like prepping the room. We're all getting ready. Like I grab one leg, Liz grabs the other, like Katie's starting to push. And then all of a sudden the doctor shows up and she's like, okay, scrubbed up. Right. She was there for what, maybe 10 minutes of it? Like,
well, yeah, I started pushing at 6 and I started squatting, but I was so tired and I was blacking out when I was pushing. Yeah. So I had to lay down. And I remember saying like, I can't see. And the nurse was so nice that the nurse or whoever checked me, the PA or whatever, she was like, oh, I'll get you a mirror. And I was like, no, I physically can't see. And like, I remember them being like, you're on a bed. If you black out, you're on a bed, you're safe. Like it's fine.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And Carolyn, the nurse, was like, okay, like it's 6:20. I go off shift at 7. I'm seeing this baby. She's like, I've been with you all day. I'm seeing this baby. And I will say like, my pushing stage was not my favorite part, not because it was worse than anything like physically, but again, not knowing what I didn't know, it just became too busy in the room. It was like too bright, too loud, too many people, like too many coaches. It was just I was very overstimulated and I began feeling again the student syndrome that everybody was waiting around and nothing was happening. Like I was doing something that was taking too long. Mm-hmm. I was like looking at the monitor waiting for the next contraction because I was like, everybody's waiting for me to push. Like I don't have to push right now. Now, of course, knowing not every contraction's a pushing contraction, Yeah. So pushing. Doctor walked in halfway through the hour that I pushed and she started giving me lidocaine shots and Liz said to me, she's giving you lidocaine shots. Like, I think she wants to give you an episiotomy. And the doctor was like, I think that you need one. And I remember looking at Jess looking at Liz and Liz being like, yeah, like Liz being like, yes, that's what's necessary.
It's legitimate. Like to the doctor's credit, and she's not like a super warm person, but she is great. She did take a minute to like show me and explain, like, see, like, here's the head. Like, it's a bad position. And like, we all sort of like confirmed. And like, when Liz was like, yes, I think that's the right move, we all kind of said, okay.
Yeah. And had I been upright or had I been able to squat or be in a different position, maybe I wouldn't have needed it. But I think I would still be pushing if I had it. Yeah. And she did the cut and the Lily was born, flew out, head, shoulders, knees, and toes all at once on the next push.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Now when you say they did the cut though, people think an episiotomy is like where they cut your perineum all the way to your rectum. A cut can just be a tiny release, like literally a half an inch cut.
Yeah, and it wasn't straight. It was to the side.
Yeah.
And it was.
She flew out.
She flew out.
Yeah. So it was like a pressure release. you know, just like a little. So the episiotomies that I've seen are just a tiny little cut. People think like, oh, I'm going to get sliced and rip open. And I've never seen that. It sounds like you just had just what I've seen, which is they kind of help you out a little bit. Like you're about to tear anyway. So sometimes a little cut can reduce tearing. And the baby comes out pretty quickly, you know? So did Lily have a cord wrap or anything like that, or just fly right out?
Yeah, no nuchal. She had nothing. She came out right away. And then what was really, really important on our birth preferences, because I felt like I had carried her all that time, was we wanted her first to be placed on Jess's chest.
Okay.
So Jess had a button down shirt on and she got into bed next to me and they put the baby on Jess.
Okay.
And I think it was probably less than 10 minutes later, they were waiting for my placenta and I wasn't feeling anything. And my doctor, it was just unexpected. I mean, she was right. It's very good advice to try to get a placenta moving, but it was just unexpected. She's like, do you mind massaging your nipple for me? And I was like, I'm like looking at my beautiful baby, like who's like sitting on my wife's chest. I'm like, okay. And then my doula was like, why don't we see if she wants to latch? Like, instead of you doing that manually, why don't we just give her the baby? Yeah. And she did. She latched right away. And I think my placenta was like,
it was right out
after.
And
started
Carolyn got to see the baby. She was born 7:04, so she hung on 4 minutes after her time, and she was like, "I'm seeing this baby. She's coming out." At 7:04, she got to see her.
Yes, right at shift change. Way to go, Katie. Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay,
my bleeding was okay, so they never I didn't get a Pitocin injection or anything.
Okay,
I think it was just, it's a hospital, so you are on a little bit more of a clock. And it was like, they do like the placenta to come out within the first 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So it was like, they were like, I mean, if it was even 10 minutes.
I didn't even think it was 10 minutes.
10 minutes doesn't sound very long. So we don't cut the cord here until the cord completely stops pulsating.
They didn't delay it long enough. And I wasn't educated enough to be like, well, hold on. And Katie had just pushed a baby out. So she wasn't, and Liz was helping Katie. So I was like, oh, okay, sure. Like, I didn't know. So, I mean, this time I think now, through education, I'll wait a little longer. We delayed probably more than some, but not as much as we would have.
Our hospitals here define it as 30 to 45 seconds. And I'm like, well, I define it as until there's no pulse in the cord anymore. So Jess, this time, grab Amelia's cord and feel the pulse. It'll be just like in your neck right here. So just grab it and feel it. And just out of curiosity, this is how I always get away. I mean, now all the providers know what I'm doing, but I'm like, would love to feel I'll put a glove on and I'm like, I would love to feel the cord pulsing since they want it to stop pulsating. I'm like, can I just see what the cord feels like pulsating? Whatever. I mean, but it is kind of cool. I mean, you guys now for Amelia, right? Like you're with midwives and you're in a different location. So you're probably not going to have to fight as much for these things. But or Katie too, like either of you just grab the cord and feel the pulse and check it and say like, we're not cutting this cord until we confirm that we don't feel a pulse either. A lot of times the cord doesn't stop pulsating for 15 minutes, and of course the placenta doesn't come out until 20 minutes or so. So 10 minutes, but they sounds like, I kind of like your doctor though, that she's like, rub your nipples, latch, right. And wasn't pushing Pitocin on you and different medical interventions, which is amazing.
On me. And I actually think that our doctor not being in the room, not being in the hospital at all helped.
Yeah.
Not I was never offered Pitocin. I was never I think outside of that one time, I was never offered an epidural.
Well, once Carolyn came on, she really ran the show.
Yeah.
Because our doctor was building, the nurse ran the entire day, and she wanted to support Katie, and she was excited about, an unmedicated birth, and she didn't offer anything. When she heard this is what we're doing, she's like, that's what we're doing. Great, let's do it.
Yeah. So all three of you guys have not slept for almost 24 hours then, right?
Oh, up for probably 36 hours.
Yeah.
From 2 a.m. when I lost my mucus plug, we were so excited. We were we basically didn't sleep And then once I woke up at 6 with the contractions on that Thursday morning.
Yeah, there was no sleep.
So this is where I have a partner question for you, Jess. So this, like, someone has to take care of the baby and everyone wants to go to bed. So who took Lily first? Who slept first? That's what I want to know. Who slept first?
In the hospital the first night because we did not know what we did not know. I came home, we have a dog. I came home to let him out and kind of do all that stuff. We were like, okay, it's better if we like divide and conquer in this situation. You rest here, I rest here. Like we didn't know what we didn't know. I will say, and my friends have made fun of me for this now for almost 2 years. I was a mess when I got home. I was so fucking tired. And like we hadn't eaten that I grabbed a piece of bread when I came home and I started crying and I was like, I can't eat it. And I was home by myself. I'm like screaming this to myself. And then I fell asleep, like cuddling my keys. So like you're delirious, you know? So in terms of who helped anybody, the answer is not me. I barely helped myself. So I did not help Katie. I did not help Lily. And although I did the next morning bring bagels. And then that night I did get you sushi. So, but yeah, I didn't stay at all. And this time I'll stay, you know, at least definitely the first night, you know, obviously with Lily, it's a little bit, it's just different, but we have my in-laws right here. We have my, you know, best friend who's her godfather and our other best friend who's Amelia's godmother. And, you know, we have more knowledge. So a long answer to your question is I was very unhelpful.
I think you were very helpful for 36 hours. And then we all have a point of, you know, we all have a wall. And I will say, Katie, you probably remember, right? Our bodies give us this thing that we need when you're the birthing person. You get this like some surges of energy that are like supersonic, you know, that you're like, you're watching everyone around you drop like flies. And yet the birthing person just keeps going, you know? And I just think that's just a lot of the chemicals and stuff like that. Okay, Katie and Jess, before we go, we're going to talk about your favorite baby product. But before we get to that, I just want you to summarize like from the birth with Lily and now for preparing for Amelia, you know, what are some of the key changes that you've made and are making now that you're a doula and you're kind of veteran parents?
I don't know if we're veteran parents. We're learning on the go like everybody else. But as far as like birth specific, you know, we've done it once before. So we're looking at it from a different angle. Definitely the switch from OB like providership to midwifery care has been a big one. Keeping our same doula who was so supportive through everything with the first, and just feeling like a little bit less pressure on everything. You know, birth is so unpredictable. You can't really plan for it. You can learn all about what you can learn about, but not putting so much pressure on ourselves about like a certain picture feels.
And then is your birthing location closer this time?
It is further away.
Okay.
Like we're talking like a 10-minute difference. It's not like a huge difference.
Yeah, I think we'll wait longer to go this time for sure.
Gotcha. You never know though, right? Like those second babies sometimes can fly right out.
Right.
Well, I've loved having you guys on for both segments of like really talking about the dynamic of being a same-sex couple, like, and what that fertility journey looks like and like all the politics and just, I mean, that was really informative in your last episode. And then really what a cool birth story, but I'm still kind of a little angry about this triage thing. So I'm going to have to simmer about that for the rest of the day. I'm going to ask this question to both of you guys. What's your favorite baby product that really helped you, that you definitely want to make sure you have on board for Amelia?
Well, something we didn't have with Lily that we will have for Amelia, and I don't know if you count this as a baby product as a postpartum doula,
100%. Yep.
And then like, I would say I'm like borderline crunchy, and the least crunchy thing about my parenting was the Owlet monitor that like checks your baby's breathing and pulse rate. If we did not have that with Lily, I would not have slept the entire first year.
I think it's important to know that Lily is napping right now, and I am looking at Katie's phone, and the Owlet monitor is open right now.
She's not wearing the pulse sock.
No, but we're currently staring at her while we do this. So
amazing.
Yes.
Okay, so you guys like, so are you in agreement, Jess, or is there something else that you really like too?
No, I think it's the Owlet. That was just like it was a good peace of mind, not even for me, but to know that like Katie was taking time to rest because of this thing was very helpful. And I just like looking at her when she's sleeping because she's cute. So like, I get to look at Lily all night and Katie's sleeping, and it all works out.
And is Liz your postpartum doula, or do you have someone else?
No, Liz doesn't work postpartum. She's only doing birth. We have a wonderful postpartum. She's a birth and postpartum doula. Her name is Janelyn from Moments to Breathe is our postpartum doula.
Okay, excellent. Well, I'll link to all of it in the show notes. So thank you guys for taking the time during nap time to like step away and record these 2 episodes. And I just appreciate you guys being on. And that's a wrap. Thank you for being part of the Birth Story family and listening to this episode. On Tuesdays every week are doula diaries, little snippets and tidbits from my week, along with some teaching and education. And then on Thursdays, we meet here for our birth stories and our expert speakers. So thank you for being here and listening to the podcast twice a week. And if you are left wanting more, like Heidi, I've listened to all the episodes, I've read your entire book, then I hope you will meet me in Birth Story Academy and let me be your online childbirth educator to prepare you for your hospital birth, no matter what that looks like. Thank you for listening to Birth Story. My goal is you will walk away from each episode with a clear picture of how labor and delivery might go, and that you will feel empowered by the end of your pregnancy